They condemn you because you saw what they hide. You spoke the quiet truths that everyone else was too afraid to name. You looked beyond the smiles, the staged kindness, the carefully curated lies, and you saw them, not their image, not their mask, them, the part they keep buried under performance and pride. And they never forgave you for that. They never hated you for being wrong, they hated you for being right. You didn't play along. You didn't join their theater of falsehoods. While they worshipped appearances, you kept searching for substance. And when you finally pointed out the cracks in their perfection, they didn't fix them, they painted over them, then blamed you for noticing. You became their threat the moment you stopped participating in their illusion. People like that survive on secrecy. They crave validation, not understanding. And when you refuse to play your part, the quiet, compliant one who claps for hypocrisy, you became the villain in their script. They condemned you not for your sins, but for your sight. The truth is uncomfortable when you've built your identity on lies. You became their mirror, and mirrors are dangerous things. They show people what they've spent years avoiding. And when they couldn't destroy the reflection, they decided to destroy the mirror. They say you changed, but you didn't. You just stopped pretending not to notice. You stopped laughing at fake jokes, stopped defending people who only showed loyalty when convenient. You began to move differently, and suddenly the masks started slipping. Their discomfort was never about you. It was about exposure. They talk about you now, whispering, dramatizing, rewriting the story. Because villains make better conversation than truth tellers. It's easier to condemn you than confront the parts of themselves you revealed. So they built a narrative where you're the problem, because that way, they never have to face what they are. You became their cautionary tale. Don't end up like them, they say. But what they really mean is, don't wake up like them. Because once you see through the act, you can't go back to clapping. You can't unsee the manipulation, the ego disguised as morality, the affection that was always conditional. They mistake your silence for guilt. But it's not guilt, it's grace. You don't need to defend yourself to those who already decided their version of the truth. You learned that arguments with liars only make the lie louder, so you went quiet. And in that quiet, their stories began to crumble. They condemn you because you made them visible. You stripped away their borrowed light. You turned the spotlight back toward the shadows. And people who thrive in darkness despise illumination. They'll call you arrogant, cruel, dramatic, anything but accurate. Because accuracy is fatal to falsehood. And now, you walk alone but free. You no longer seek acceptance from those who wear their morality like makeup. You've seen too much to return to blindness. You learned that solitude is safer than fake company, and truth is heavier, but cleaner than deception. They condemn you because you saw their true colors and refused to paint over them. They still perform, pretending the curtain never fell. But you can see the tremor in their smiles, the hesitation in their eyes. They sense your gaze on them, and it unsettles them, because you know what they look like without the costume. Nothing terrifies pretenders more than someone who remembers the truth. They gather in small circles to reassure each other that you're the problem. Every sentence they speak is a confession disguised as gossip. You don't correct them. You don't need to. The truth doesn't need defenders. It needs time. And time is patient. It always exposes what ego tries to hide. You learned that peace isn't the absence of enemies. It's the absence of masks. Once you've seen people's true faces, you stop expecting sincerity from them. You stop offering explanations to those who hear only what flatters them. You start living quietly, watching their performances with detached amusement. They mistake your detachment for bitterness. But bitterness is loud. Indifference is elegant. You no longer need revenge. You have perspective. You understand now that falsehood collapses under its own weight. All you have to do is step aside and let gravity do its work. You stopped collecting apologies. You realized most are not apologies at all, just people trying to reset access to you. So you built boundaries so high that only truth can climb them. It's lonely up there, yes, but it's honest. And honesty has become your oxygen. They think your quiet is weakness because they mistake noise for strength. But strength is restraint. Power is refusing to waste words on those who twist them. Every time you stay silent, they reveal themselves a little more. You learned that the best interrogation tool is patience. You don't flinch anymore when they accuse you. You let them talk. Let them invent. Lies are like ghosts, they vanish when ignored. And every false story told about you becomes another thread tightening around their own reputation. Their theater is collapsing, and you don't even have to lift a hand. You've grown fluent in solitude. It no longer feels like exile, it feels like clarity. There's peace in being misunderstood by liars, because you no longer need them to understand you. You don't explain honesty to those addicted to illusion. You let them drown in their own narratives. They condemn you because you don't worship their version of truth. But you've learned, truth doesn't need a congregation, only conviction. You carry it quietly now, like a weapon concealed beneath elegance. They sense it, even if they can't name it, the calm of someone who knows too much and speaks too little. And in the end, that's what breaks them. Not your words, not your actions, your awareness. You saw their true colors, and you didn't flinch. You didn't run. You simply stepped back and let the light do what it always does. Reveal. And revelation, my dear, is the one thing falsehood can never survive. They think you disappeared. You didn't. You simply stopped performing. You walked off their stage and built your own room of silence, where only truth is invited. From there you watch them scramble for an audience, terrified that the applause has died. They still crave validation. You now crave nothing. You've become the still point they can't reach. Every rumor they release returns to them slightly distorted, a mirror echoing their own cruelty. They don't understand how it happens, and that's what eats them alive, the realization that your absence became their reflection. Once you stop reacting, the entire machinery of manipulation collapses. You learned that early. When you refused to defend yourself, their words lost oxygen. They mistook your calm for surrender, but it was strategy. You understood that silence in the right hands is a blade sharper than anger. They missed the version of you that used to justify everything. They missed the angel who kept forgiving their shadows. But the angel grew tired of being the light source for people afraid of dawn. Now you shine differently, cold, deliberate, selective. The warmth they once abused no longer exists for them. You became the reminder they can't escape. Your name surfaces when honesty threatens to surface. They roll their eyes, pretend indifference, but their tone betrays them. You've become proof that authenticity survives exile, and they resent that proof because it nullifies their pretense. You stop trying to change anyone. That's real maturity. Watching someone lie, betray, and repeat the pattern without lifting a finger to save them. You simply observe, detached and calm, knowing that life always demands payment in the currency of truth. They condemn you because you're free. You don't owe them narrative, explanation, or access. Freedom frightens those who live on approval. You learn that detachment isn't loneliness, it's sovereignty. You own your peace the way tyrants own empires, except yours requires no subjects. The stories they tell about you are shrinking. Each time you thrive silently, their versions lose credibility. Lies decay when starved of attention. You don't fight them, you outlast them. Time, after all, is loyal to the truthful. Now they avoid your eyes. Not because you threaten them, but because they see what you see. They feel exposed in your presence, stripped of performance. That's the quiet authority of awareness. It commands without demanding. It unsettles without speaking. And you, once the condemned, now walk through their world untouchable. You don't seek revenge, you embody it. Your existence is the verdict. They condemned you because you saw their true colors, and the tragedy for them is simple. The vision you carry cannot be unseen, and the peace you've earned cannot be taken back. They expected your absence to look like defeat. They thought leaving you out would quiet you down, make you crawl back for closure. But you didn't crawl. You ascended. You left quietly, carried your dignity in both hands, and disappeared without an announcement. That silence humiliated them more than any speech could have. At first, they waited for a reaction. They threw bait provocations, rumors, small insults designed to test if you still cared. You didn't blink. You gave them nothing but calm. And that calm terrified them, because people who once fed off your emotions starve when you stop serving them. They check your life from the corners of their screens now. Every post, every movement, every rumor of your peace feels like betrayal. They can't comprehend how someone they tried to ruin simply stopped reacting. They wanted chaos. You gave them stillness. And nothing is louder than silence that doesn't need validation. You learn that indifference is the final evolution of self-respect. It's not hatred, it's freedom. You no longer invest energy in proving who you are to people who already decided what they wanted to believe. You just walk away, and the echo of your footsteps keeps them awake. They call you arrogant because they confuse boundaries with ego. But your calm isn't arrogance, it's exhaustion cured by detachment. You've outgrown the performance of explaining yourself to the unlistening. That's what burns them the most. They no longer have the privilege of misunderstanding you. They whisper that you've changed. You have. You stopped caring about the applause of people who booed when you were real. You learned that not everything deserves your response. Your silence is your statement, your peace the sharpest comeback. They wanted to see you broken, begging, seeking closure. Instead, you became composed, private, unbothered. That composure exposes their immaturity. It reminds them that control isn't about dominance, it's about discipline. You learn to walk away with grace, and they can't forgive you for doing it so beautifully. They mistake your laughter for mockery. They don't understand that joy after betrayal isn't revenge, it's recovery. You no longer need to prove you're fine. You are fine. Their obsession with your indifference is the proof. You healed while they rehearsed reasons you shouldn't have. They try to provoke you through others' now small comments, passive messages, mutual friends carrying updates you didn't ask for. You smile, nod, and change the subject. That small act of emotional control drives them mad. They can't stand that you've become immune to the drama they built their identity around. And so they call you heartless. But the truth is simpler. You just stopped handing your heart to people who drop it. Your IDGAF attitude isn't cruelty, it's clarity. You finally understand that caring is sacred, and not everyone deserves it. They wanted your reaction. Instead, you gave them peace, and peace, to the guilty, feels like punishment. They keep watching, hoping the old version of you will slip out by accident. The one who reacted, explained, overgave, but that person is gone. You buried them beneath boundaries and stillness. You speak less now, move slower, think deeper. They call it distance, but it's evolution. They try to bait you with nostalgia. Remember when you cared? They ask, pretending warmth. But the question is a confession. They missed the control they had when you cared. You smile politely, answer with silence, and that single act unsettles them more than any argument ever could. Every time you don't respond, their ego takes the hit. They replay your quiet like a crime scene, searching for signs of weakness. But your absence has no clues. It's complete. You mastered the art of non-participation, and that mastery is what keeps them pacing in their own cage. They gossip, because gossip is cheaper than self-reflection. You let them. Lies decay in circulation. You don't chase rumors anymore, you let them orbit and burn out in their own friction. The truth doesn't need rescuing. It only needs witnesses. Time provides plenty. Your peace has become theatrical to them. They can't comprehend calm without agenda, so they assign you motives. They're pretending. They're plotting. The reality is simpler. You're simply done. Nothing enrages manipulators more than someone who's sincerely finished. They scroll through fragments of your life looking for cracks, something to prove you're still wounded, but you healed quietly without posting the process. Real healing is invisible. It leaves no proof for the audience. That invisibility drives them mad. They want you back in their drama because peace makes their chaos feel meaningless. Without you reacting, their games have no prize. You dismantled their power simply by refusing to play. That's why your IDGAF attitude stings. It reminds them that control only works on the willing. You no longer correct their version of events. You let them believe what they need to sleep at night. It's not your job to be their clarity. You've learned that peace costs the price of misunderstanding, and you're willing to pay it. Freedom always demands that toll. They accuse you of thinking you're better. You don't. You just value yourself enough to stay unavailable to nonsense. That's the difference between arrogance and awareness. Arrogance performs, awareness withdraws. You've chosen withdrawal, and that choice terrifies them. Now, every time your name is mentioned, it lingers. You've become an unsolved riddle in their stories, how someone could be so unbothered after so much chaos. They'll keep guessing. Let them. Because mystery is the last gift you give those who once took everything else. They thought distance would diminish you, but instead, it defined you. The further you walked, the clearer your reflection became. You realized that peace isn't about isolation, it's about elevation. You didn't retreat, you rose. And in your rise, they saw their own stagnation mirrored back at them. That's what eats them alive. They used to mock your kindness, whisper that you cared too much. Now they envy the silence that replaced it. Because that silence has gravity, it pulls attention, it commands the room without trying. You've become what they feared, the one who no longer needs to explain, apologize, or participate. You turned your restraint into a crown. Every time they mention your name, the air shifts. It carries both awe and bitterness. They try to dismiss you with the same mouths that can't stop repeating your story. You've become folklore proof that surviving betrayal turns you into myth, and myths don't argue, they echo. You no longer walk to prove a point. Your existence is the point. They can't stand that the version of you they tried to destroy became the one the world now admires. Their envy isn't about your success, it's about your serenity. They can buy status, followers, imitation, but not your peace. Peace like yours can only be earned through war with the self. They study your stillness like detectives of your downfall. Every breath you take unsettles them because it contradicts their expectations. You were supposed to crumble. You didn't. You were supposed to beg. You didn't. You were supposed to stay broken. Instead, you built an empire from the rubble and never invited them in. Now they move carefully around your name, afraid to sound obsessed but unable to hide the fascination. They lurk behind blocked accounts, mutual friends, second-hand updates, all to keep tabs on someone who stopped playing the game. And that's your quiet victory. They still chase what you've outgrown. You don't even have to respond anymore. Your peace speaks louder than revenge ever could. Revenge requires attention. Peace demands evolution. You evolved, and they mistook it for ego. But ego shouts, peace whispers. And your whisper is deafening to those still screaming for relevance. You no longer measure your worth by who claps for you. You learned that applause fades faster than truth. What stays is the discipline to remain calm while they self-destruct under the weight of their own envy. You don't fight fire with fire, you let theirs burn out while you walk through the smoke untouched. They'll tell others that you changed. They'll call it coldness. But what really changed was your tolerance for chaos. You stopped entertaining people who mistake access for importance. You became selective with your energy, and that selectivity made you untouchable. And now, in their quietest moments, they replay everything. They remember the one who cared, who stayed, who forgave, and they realize they broke the version of you that would have saved them. What remains is the version they created, the one who doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, doesn't need. You, at peace. And that peace is their punishment. They broke the angel, not with fire, not with war, but with neglect, the kind of quiet cruelty that kills slowly. You kept forgiving, kept showing grace, thinking patience would heal what they refused to stop wounding. You gave light to people who hid from it. You called it love. They called it convenience. Every time you fell, you believed the world would catch you, but the world didn't even look up. So you learned the lesson all pure souls eventually learn. Sometimes innocence isn't rewarded, it's targeted. And those who cannot match your purity will always try to stain it. They broke you with small betrayals, polite lies, half-hearted promises. You didn't break loud, you shattered quietly, like glass under silk. And when you disappeared, they laughed. They thought silence meant surrender, but silence was incubation. You weren't gone, you were rebuilding. They loved you when you were gentle, because gentle things are easy to control. But when you hardened, when you learned the beauty of no, when you stopped explaining your pain, suddenly you were the villain. That's how it always goes. The moment you start respecting yourself, the world calls it ego. Now they look at you and whisper, "What happened?" You did. You happened. The version of you that they broke learned how to never bend again. You built a fortress out of the rubble. You turned every apology you never got into a brick. And you smiled while doing it, not because it didn't hurt, but because pain finally had purpose. They used to take your kindness for granted. Now they take your absence personally. You became a silence that screams louder than your old forgiveness ever did. They wanted your empathy. They got your evolution instead. And evolution, my dear, doesn't ask for permission. You stopped bleeding for those who never flinched at your wounds. You stopped being the medicine for people addicted to your suffering. That was your first act of rebellion, peace disguised as indifference. And in that calm, they saw something terrifying. You no longer needed them. They see your calm and call it coldness. But it's not coldness, it's control. You stopped reacting, stopped explaining, stopped begging. You learned that angels don't fall. They rise disguised as demons when they've seen too much heaven wasted on the wrong souls. Now they whisper your name with fear, not nostalgia. You became the warning they give to others. Don't play with someone who has nothing left to lose. They see you thriving, detached, untouchable, and it kills them quietly. Because deep down they know they created the very force that now eclipses them. They broke the angel, they shattered your wings, thinking you'd never fly again. But they forgot wings grow back sharper when rebuilt in fire. You didn't just rise. You ascended with eyes open, no longer blinded by love. And now, the ones who once called you too good call you too much. That's not change, that's clarity. They call you heartless now, but that's just projection. You still have a heart, it's just no longer on display. You tucked it behind armor, forged in disappointment, guarded it with silence, and crowned it with restraint. What they call cold is simply warmth that learned self-respect. They say you've changed, you haven't. You just stopped volunteering for your own destruction. You stopped walking into flames expecting people to notice you were burning. You stopped mistaking pain for loyalty. That isn't change, that's awakening. And awakenings are always misread by those who sleep comfortably in denial. They used to laugh when you spoke about love. They mocked your sincerity, rolled their eyes at your faith. But now they can't laugh. Now, when you walk into a room, they fall silent because your calm exposes their noise. They can't meet your eyes because your peace reflects their unrest. You don't chase anymore, you don't explain, defend, or beg. You learn that power doesn't shout, it observes. That silence, when it's earned, speaks louder than rage. You became fluent in the language of indifference, and that terrified them because they thrived on your reactions. Without your chaos, their world fell still. They can't decide what scares them more, your absence or your evolution. When you were broken, they felt powerful. Now that you're whole, they feel exposed because they can't manipulate what no longer seeks approval. You stopped orbiting them, and suddenly they realized they were never the sun, just the shadow. They gossip about your transformation because they can't decode it. You've gone dark, they say, not realizing darkness was your refuge, not your downfall. You went into the dark to heal, to rebuild, to rewire. And when you emerged, they mistook your stillness for emptiness. But you know better, emptiness is what they feel when they can't reach you. They see your peace and call it arrogance. But peace, after chaos, is the most dangerous weapon, because you're not fighting anyone anymore, you're letting them fight themselves. Every lie they told about you now echoes back at them. Every game they played now costs them sleep. Karma didn't need your help, it just needed your silence. You learned that not all demons wear horns. Some wear apologies, some wear smiles, and the cruelest ones call it love. But you learned to recognize them, didn't you? You learned that being kind to the wrong people is how angels bleed. So you stopped bleeding. You started watching. You became the lesson. They thought breaking you would humble you. Instead, it crowned you. Because nothing is more powerful than someone who has already been destroyed and built themselves back without resentment. You didn't return to prove them wrong, you returned to prove to yourself that they never defined you. And now, they fear what they built. The demon they mocked into existence doesn't roar, doesn't chase, doesn't burn things down. It simply exists elegantly, mercilessly free. They look at you now and realize the truth. They didn't destroy you. They only destroyed their access to you. And that, my dear, is the real punishment. They whisper your name like a warning now. The same mouths that once mocked you now weigh every word before they speak, because you taught them what consequence looks like, not through revenge, but through absence. You didn't destroy them. You just let life show them what it's like to live without your grace. They never understood how light could turn dark so beautifully. They expected fury, but you gave them silence. They expected chaos, but you gave them composure. You didn't need to raise your voice. Your peace became the thunder that echoed louder than any scream. The silence they once took for weakness now feels like judgment. They still talk about you not out of love, but out of confusion. How did the one they broke rise so calmly? How did the one they buried come back glowing with restraint instead of rage? It's simple. You stopped trying to heal in the same place that made you sick. You found peace in distance, not destruction. They look at your life now, how you glow, how you move, and it eats them alive. Not because you're flaunting victory, but because you've mastered the art of not needing validation. You no longer post your wounds for applause. You heal in silence. You win quietly, and that silence drives them mad. They call it arrogance because they can't name the feeling of being irrelevant. They used to matter, now they don't. They used to haunt you, now you sleep soundly. That's the cruel poetry of growth. The ones who once defined your pain no longer define anything at all. You stop proving, stop pleading, stop performing. You realize that power isn't about being louder, it's about being untouchable. You no longer demand to be understood. Let them misunderstand. It's cheaper than explaining your evolution to people who still live in the past version of you. They thought they could end you by breaking you, but all they did was remove your illusion. The angel they shattered was the version that believed people could love purely. The demon that rose afterward loves differently, selectively, deliberately, with eyes open and a heart armored in truth. Now they crave the version of you that no longer exists. They replay old memories like addicts chasing a high. But that person, that naive light, was buried the moment they chose deceit over loyalty. You mourned it once. Now you honor it by never returning. That's what real healing looks like, loving who you were while never becoming it again. You've learned that peace isn't found in forgiveness alone, it's found in detachment. You no longer hate them. You simply see through them. Hate still connects you. Indifference severs the thread. And that's the most frightening thing of all. They can't hurt what no longer responds. And so, when they look at you now, they don't see the angel they once broke. They see the reflection of every wrong they ever did. They see calm where chaos used to live, strength where submission once stood. They fear you not because you became a monster, but because you became everything they never expected, whole, healed, and utterly beyond their reach. They once looked at you and saw fragility, someone too soft to survive without their approval, too kind to ever walk away. But fragility doesn't mean weakness. It means transparency before the world learns how to break you. And when they finally broke you, they forgot one thing: glass, once shattered, cuts deeper than anything they've ever touched. They thought you'd fade quietly, that you'd crumble, plead, return. But you didn't fall apart, you fell into yourself. You learned that solitude is not emptiness, it's refinement. They mistook your stillness for surrender, not realizing that silence is where real power learns how to breathe. They said you'd never survive without them. Funny how survival became your specialty. While they drowned in their own noise, you rebuilt yourself in the dark, not for applause, not for revenge, but for peace. The kind of peace that rattles those who never found it. They waited for your breakdown, not your breakthrough. But the universe has a cruel sense of humor. It made you bloom in the ruins they left behind. Every time they cursed your name, the echo came back carrying your victory. They called you dramatic, emotional, difficult, anything to make themselves feel stable. But time revealed what you always knew, that emotional doesn't mean weak, and quiet doesn't mean defeated. They built their comfort on your chaos, and when you took the chaos back, their comfort collapsed. They wanted you predictable, compliant, small. Instead, you became unreadable. You started smiling at things that once destroyed you. That's what terrifies them most, not your success, but your serenity, because peace in the hands of the once broken looks like a weapon. They whisper now, saying you've changed, but they don't mean it as an observation, they mean it as an accusation. Because if you've changed, then they have to face who they were when you were still theirs. And no one likes looking in the mirror that tells the truth. They can't believe you stopped caring. But you didn't stop caring, you just stopped bleeding for unworthy causes. You learned the most dangerous skill of all, detachment. To love without losing yourself, to leave without looking back. That kind of growth terrifies the ones who stay stagnant. They'll tell stories about you, twist them, decorate them, dilute them, but that's fine. Legends are always misunderstood in the first chapter. What matters is this: their doubt built the stage, and you learned how to perform without needing their applause. And now look at you, calm, untouchable, everything they said you'd never be and more. You didn't rise to prove them wrong. You rose because it was the only way left to live. And that's the irony of it all. They wanted to destroy you, but instead, they built you. You became everything they thought you'd never be, and now, that's all they can see. They used to measure your worth by how much you needed them. Now they have no unit of measurement left. You stopped orbiting around their approval, and suddenly their entire sky went dark. That's what happens when people mistake your light for their control. When you take it back, their world goes black. They call it arrogance now, the way you carry yourself. But arrogance is loud, you're quiet. And quiet confidence unsettles the insecure because it whispers what their ego screams to hide. That you no longer seek permission to exist. They used to command your energy. Now they can't even command your attention. They analyze your calm like detectives, trying to find cracks, motives, explanations. But peace doesn't need an alibi. It's not pretending. It's proof. Every rumor they start about you is just another confession that they can't understand how you're still standing. They thought the story would end when you walked away. They never expected a sequel where the protagonist glows in silence and the antagonists argue among themselves. You didn't need revenge time did it for you. It replayed every lie, every manipulation, and forced them to watch it from the other side. They talk about you with a bitterness that tastes like regret, because deep down they know what really haunts them. You were never supposed to win. You were supposed to beg, crawl, apologize. Instead, you healed, and healing is the one thing they can't compete with. They thought they'd moved on. They even convinced themselves that indifference was victory. But indifference doesn't stalk peace in silence. They still scroll, still wonder, still compare. Because when someone truly moves on, curiosity dies and theirs refuses to. They never realized that peace changes your language. You stopped arguing, stopped proving, stopped explaining. Every time they tried to bait you into chaos, you just smiled, not mockingly, but knowingly, because once you've tasted serenity, noise feels like poverty. And the final irony? They wanted to see you broken, so they'd have a story to tell. Instead, you became a reminder of what they could have been if they'd chosen growth over ego. You didn't just survive them, you outgrew the version of yourself that ever needed them. And that's what truly destroys them. You became everything they thought you'd never be, and they became everything they swore they'd never become. They can't stand how unbothered you've become. Once upon a time, they could trigger you with a word, twist your emotions like wires. Now they shout into silence, and that silence answers louder than any scream. They used to feed off your reactions, now they starve in your absence. That's the quiet starvation of the manipulative the moment they realize the puppet has cut its own strings. They wander through their own regrets like ghosts, haunted not by your memory, but by your peace. You don't haunt them because you left. You haunt them because you healed. They can't forgive you for choosing yourself, because choosing yourself meant they lost control, and control was the only kind of love they ever knew how to give. They try to rewrite the story now, pretend you were the villain all along. It's easier that way. Villains are simple to hate, victims are too complicated to face. But deep down, even they know the truth. You didn't turn cold. You turned real. And reality is the one thing they never had the courage to live with. They talk about you in fragments, half-truths, and twisted details, hoping that by rewriting your story, they can shrink your impact. But the more they talk, the more they sound like the broken ones. You don't need to defend your legacy. Their words already do it for you. Every rumor they start builds another monument to your silence. They tell themselves they don't care, but they watch. They always watch. Every post, every whisper, every quiet move, their curiosity betrays their denial. You became their favorite contradiction, the one they claim to forget but can't stop observing. You live rent-free in the corners of their conscience. They envy how peace fits you now like armor custom forged in fire. Because they tried to break you, and all they did was sharpen your edges. You learned to wear calm like a crown, not a costume. They mistake your composure for ego, but it's not arrogance. It's evolution. You no longer need to prove that you're untouchable. Your silence proves it every day. They thought they could replace you, and they tried. Oh, they tried. But replacements don't come with the same gravity. The people who come after you are always measured by your absence, and they all fail the test. Because your value was never in what you gave them. It was in who you were when they took it for granted. They laugh about you now, but it's a hollow laugh, the kind that cracks halfway through. Because behind that sound sits realization. They lost something permanent, chasing something temporary. And that's a wound no distraction can cauterize. It bleeds quietly in their pride every time they hear your name spoken with respect. They can't understand how you can be so calm, how you can smile at the chaos they once used to drown you. But that's what happens when you master yourself. You stop reacting to storms you've already survived. You've been through their worst. There's nothing left they can take. That's why your peace feels like arrogance to them. Because it's a mirror, and they can't stand the reflection. And in the end, that's the irony that stings them the most. You never needed revenge. You never needed validation. You never needed to prove you were right. You just needed to walk away and stay gone. And now, every breath you take in peace is another reminder that they created the very person they were never built to destroy. You became everything they thought you'd never be, and now that truth is the ghost that follows them everywhere they go. They kept waiting for the reply that would never come. They stared at their screens, convinced that silence was just your way of catching breath, that soon there'd be another message, another explanation, another chance. But silence was the ending. They just didn't read it right. You had already said everything that needed to be said, just not with words. Every short answer, every delayed response, every quiet withdrawal was you spelling out your goodbye in a language they refused to learn. They thought time would soften you, that you'd eventually come back once the anger cooled, once the emotions settled. But what they never understood is that your silence wasn't a pause, it was peace. It wasn't waiting, it was release. They imagined you sitting somewhere, rehearsing what to say next, still invested, still attached. But you weren't waiting, you were healing. And healing doesn't need an audience. They call it ghosting. You call it closure. Because sometimes words only reopen the wound, and silence is the stitch that keeps it closed. You didn't owe them a final speech. You owed yourself a fresh start. You watched them mistake your calm for confusion. You let them think you'd be back, that the story wasn't over. But the day you stopped explaining was the day the credits rolled. They tell themselves you're still angry, that you're just being stubborn. They don't realize you're simply finished. Anger is loud, finality is silent. They wanted to be forgiven in conversation. You forgave them in absence. And absence hurts more because it doesn't negotiate. It just ends things quietly, completely, permanently. Every morning they wonder if today's the day you'll reach out. And every night they learn again that you won't. Your silence has become their teacher, whispering a truth they never wanted to face. Not everyone who leaves is lost. You didn't slam doors. You left them open because you knew they'd never have the courage to walk through and apologize. That's the cruelty of grace. It doesn't chase. It just lets people live with what they did. Now, your silence is legend in their mind. It hums in every room they enter. It lingers between their jokes, in their stories, in the way they pause when someone mentions your name. They pretend they don't care, but their eyes betray them every time. They remember the sound of your laughter, and now every quiet moment reminds them that it's gone. They replay old conversations, looking for the moment when you began to drift away, but they'll never find it because it didn't happen in one moment. It happened slowly, beautifully, inevitably. You didn't choose silence to punish them. You chose it to protect yourself. Words would have dragged you back into explanations, into cycles, into pain. Silence gave you freedom. And freedom, once tasted, is impossible to trade for closure. You learned that goodbye doesn't always need an announcement. Sometimes it simply needs distance. They thought silence was empty. But silence is full of everything they didn't hear, everything you decided not to repeat. It carries weight. It speaks in echoes. It reminds them that you meant what you never said. Now they understand that not every absence waits to be filled. Some absences are intentional, some are boundaries wrapped in stillness, and yours is both. So let them keep waiting for your return, for your reply, for your reaction. Let them call it pride, ego, stubbornness. You know what it really is? Peace. Because silence doesn't always mean nothing to say. Sometimes it means everything's been said. And when you walked away without a word, you said the most powerful thing of all, goodbye forever. They didn't realize that silence echoes louder than shouting ever could. It fills rooms, stretches across time, seeps into thoughts when everything else goes quiet. Your silence became their mirror, and every time they looked into it, they saw the version of themselves they made you walk away from. They used to think they could handle your distance. They told themselves you'd come back, that you always did. But this time you didn't leave space for a return. You didn't storm out, you simply evaporated. And that frightened them more than anger ever could. Because anger they could argue with, but silence they couldn't manipulate. You took away their favorite weapon conversation. You stripped them of control. When there's nothing left to respond to, the only thing they can hear is their own guilt. You see, silence isn't absence, it's presence without permission. You still exist in their world, just not in a way that gives them comfort. You're in the gaps between their laughter, the emptiness after their stories, the quiet they can't explain when someone mentions your name. They don't know how to mourn someone who's still alive. They don't know how to apologize to someone who won't listen. So they carry it instead quietly, painfully, endlessly. Your silence turned them into prisoners of their own thoughts. And the irony? They once mocked you for being too emotional. Now they're the ones drowning in it. Every unsent text, every deleted draft, every what if is a confession they'll never make aloud. They're haunted not by what you said, but by everything you didn't. They try to rewrite the story now, painting themselves as the victim, pretending they didn't know what they lost. But memory doesn't lie. And deep down they know exactly when you stopped speaking, the moment you realized they weren't listening. Your silence became the verdict. No words, no explanations, just the quiet sentence of consequence. And that's the genius of it. You ended the war without firing a single shot. Now, every time they see someone who moves like you, laughs like you, thinks like you, they freeze for a second, wondering if it's a sign, if maybe you still care. But you don't. You've moved on. You're at peace. And peace, to them, looks like punishment. They thought they could destroy you by breaking your heart, but all they did was break the version of you that needed them. And in its place, silence built something stronger, colder, wiser, unreachable. They call it mystery. You call it evolution. You stopped explaining your worth and started embodying it. And now they're learning the hard way. The quietest people often cause the loudest regret. So let them whisper your name like it's a curse and a prayer all at once. Let them wonder if you still think of them. Because the truth is simple, you don't. And that truth, wrapped in silence, is the most beautiful revenge you'll ever get. They think you forgot them easily. What they don't understand is that forgetting isn't necessary when forgiveness is complete. You didn't erase them, you outgrew them. And there's nothing more painful to watch than someone realizing they no longer have access to the version of you that once adored them. They thought time would work in their favor, that maybe you'd miss them enough to return. But time became your ally instead. Because with every passing day, your silence gained more meaning and their excuses lost more weight. Now, they call you heartless because you stopped answering. But you know the truth. You simply stopped bleeding for people who loved watching you bleed. Silence wasn't cruelty. It was self-preservation. It was your declaration that peace costs too much to share with the wrong souls. They try to mimic your calm now. They study your indifference, your ability to detach, your new glow that doesn't require validation. It terrifies them how someone they once broke now walks with unshakable grace. They thought they ruined you, but they only introduced you to your higher form. Your silence now speaks in ways words never could. It says, I've seen who you are, and I don't belong there anymore. It says, you don't deserve access to my emotions. my explanations, my energy. It says everything you could never say out loud with elegance, with finality, with power. They used to believe control meant keeping your attention. Now they see the real control is indifference, the ability to not react, to not chase, to not explain. You mastered that art, and it unsettles them because they can't master it themselves. In their dreams, you still talk to them. You still argue, still cry, still love. But when they wake up, there's only quiet. And that quiet is heavier than any goodbye could ever be. They're haunted not by your absence, but by how peaceful it looks on you. They never imagined that silence could be weaponized, not violently but surgically. You used it not to destroy, but to distance. Not to hurt, but to heal. And in that healing, you created the one thing they can't stand, a version of you that no longer needs them. Now your silence is no longer just absence, it's legacy. It's the monument to your growth built not from revenge, but from release. They thought they had time. That's the first mistake everyone makes, believing the calm before the storm means safety. They didn't realize that your silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. You weren't waiting for them to change, you were waiting for your exit. They didn't notice the way you started detaching piece by piece. The slow withdrawal from conversations, the shorter replies, the fading warmth in your tone. They didn't see that every smile you gave was already a goodbye in disguise. They believed you stayed because you couldn't leave. What they never realized was that you were only staying long enough to learn to understand their patterns, their lies, their motives. You were building the blueprint of escape right under their nose. And that's the beauty of it. You didn't slam doors. You didn't shout. You didn't give them the satisfaction of a grand scene. You just walked out one day so quietly that the silence echoed louder than any goodbye could. They still replay it in their heads, the last conversation, the final glance, trying to find the sign they missed. But by the time they realized you were gone, you had already been emotionally absent for months. You left long before you left. That's what confuses them the most. They can't understand how someone can disappear so completely while still standing right in front of them. But that's the thing about emotional departures, they happen in silence. They always thought you were too kind to walk away, too soft, too loyal. But what they forgot is that even kindness has limits, and even loyalty has logic. You weren't weak, you were patient. And patience, when weaponized, is lethal. You gave them a chance to see their mistakes. You gave them time to fix what was breaking. But instead of changing, they got comfortable with your forgiveness. They mistook endurance for dependence. They thought you'd never go until you did. And oh, how poetic it was, the same people who made you feel small now sit in the ruins of your absence. They thought they could break you into staying. Instead, they broke themselves trying to replace what they destroyed. Now they're haunted by the timing, by how you vanished so effortlessly, because deep down, they know you planned it. You were studying your escape while they were still celebrating their control. You didn't leave because you were hurt, you left because you outgrew the game. You saw every pattern, every manipulation, every emotional trick, and you realized the only winning move was to stop playing altogether. That's what they'll never forgive you for. Not that you left, but that you left on your terms. That you didn't beg, you didn't explain, you didn't give them a single drop of closure. You just became a ghost with dignity. They'll tell stories about how cold you became, how you changed. But the truth is, you didn't change, you just stopped apologizing for noticing. You stopped explaining why their chaos never felt like home. You left with grace. And that's what kills them. Because they expected anger, tears, drama, something they could point to and say, see, they're broken, but you denied them that satisfaction. You gave them nothing but calm. And calm, in the aftermath of betrayal, is terrifying. It means you accepted the lesson, not the loss. It means you saw the fire and chose to walk through it rather than burn inside it. They still think about what they could have done differently. They wonder if they pushed you too far, too fast. But what they'll never understand is that the moment they took your peace for granted, that was the beginning of your goodbye. You became unreachable the second you realized you didn't owe them an explanation. They mistook silence for weakness, but silence is the sound of power when you finally decide to stop arguing with people who aren't listening. They tried to make you doubt yourself, remember? Gaslight you into staying, guilt trip you into settling. But you turned their manipulation into motivation. You studied their tactics until you were immune. By the time you walked away, you weren't running, you were graduating. You evolved from the version of yourself that tolerated disrespect into the version that demands peace. And they still haven't caught up. They wonder who replaced them. They think maybe you found someone new, someone better, but they're wrong. You replaced them with peace, and peace was all you ever needed. They used to think you couldn't survive without them. Now they can't survive the thought that you're thriving without them. That's the cruelest irony of all. Every day they think about reaching out, typing the message, drafting the apology, but they never send it, because they know it wouldn't matter. The version of you they betrayed no longer exists. You were kind once, patient once, soft once. But they taught you why walls exist, why silence is necessary, why detachment is the final form of understanding. You didn't need revenge, leaving was enough. You didn't need closure, distance became closure. And you didn't need them to see your worth, your absence made it obvious. Now they look for you in people who don't have your eyes, your energy, your silence. And every time they fail to find you, they understand a little more of what they lost. You see, they thought they had control, but you were never theirs to control. You were theirs to lose, and they did. So let them talk. Let them pretend they don't care. Let them act like they never miss you. Because deep down they know the truth. You didn't just walk away. You disappeared like a storm that leaves silence too heavy to breathe in. They didn't know you were already gone long before you left. They didn't know every smile was you saying goodbye without moving your lips. They didn't know your silence wasn't confusion, it was preparation. And now they sit in the wreckage of their own arrogance, whispering the same question over and over again. Were they planning it all along? Yes. They replay every memory now, over and over, every word, every look, every silence. They dissect conversations like evidence, searching for clues that were never hidden. But there's nothing left to uncover, because you never concealed the truth. You just expressed it in a language they never learned: detachment. They can't decide what hurts more, that you're gone, or that you were already leaving while they still believed they were winning. That's the thing about intelligent exits, they don't announce themselves. They unfold like poetry, quiet, deliberate, and unforgettable. They talk about you now with a strange mixture of resentment and reverence. They call you cold, distant, ruthless, but underneath that bitterness is admiration. Because even as they try to insult you, they can't help but acknowledge your precision. You didn't stumble away. You calculated your departure. Some nights, they almost convince themselves to reach out. Their pride whispers, "Don't," but guilt screams louder. They pick up their phone, hover over your name, and then freeze. Because deep down they know any message sent now would sound like weakness. And you don't answer weakness anymore. You became the standard of control. The example of what happens when self-respect finally outweighs emotion. You left not out of rage but reason. You didn't burn bridges, you simply stopped crossing them. That's what unsettles them most. You were never dramatic, never loud, never chaotic, just gone. Now they compare everyone to you, unconsciously, unwillingly. Every person they meet, every new connection gets measured against your calm, your intelligence, your silence. And every time someone fails to match that, they remember what they took for granted. You. They tell people you changed. They pretend they let you go. But the truth? You released them before they even realized they were being set free. You didn't destroy them, you simply stopped saving them. And without your energy holding their chaos together, they collapsed under their own weight. They used to mistake your kindness for naivete. They thought your forgiveness meant forgetfulness. But when you left, they learned the truth. Kindness isn't weakness, it's restraint. It's the strength to stay composed while you watch people dig their own graves. Now they understand what silence can do, how peace can humiliate louder than anger ever could. Because while they're still explaining their version of events, you've already stopped caring. You exist above their narratives, untouchable, unreachable, the ghost of the one they underestimated. And the cruelest part? They'll never get closure, because closure requires both people to still care. You don't. You've already moved so far beyond them that even their apology would feel irrelevant. What they don't realize is your peace isn't the absence of them, it's the reward for surviving them. They don't understand how you do it, do they? How you always seem to know. The words before they're spoken, the lies before they're told, the endings before they begin. To them it's impossible, unnatural. It has to be something else. So now they whisper. They must have some kind of gift, they say. They must know sorcery. No, my friend, it's not magic. It's awareness. It's observation. It's patience sharpened into instinct. You watched, you listened, and you learned. You memorized patterns, tones, inconsistencies, the tiny cracks in their armor they thought were invisible. You saw through everything, not because you're mystical, but because you're awake. That's what they fear, not your power, but your perception. They're terrified of someone who can see what they hide, who can look through the masks they spent years perfecting. You didn't need spells to expose them. You just needed silence. And silence, my dear, is the most dangerous magic there is. They call it sorcery because intelligence unsettles the ignorant. Logic looks like witchcraft to the emotional, and calm, real, unshakable calm feels supernatural to the chaotic. They can't process that your strength comes from restraint, not rage. That your clarity comes from detachment, not indifference. So they label it. They call it something otherworldly, because it's easier to fear what they don't understand than to admit they've been outsmarted. You didn't hex them, you read them. You didn't curse them, you calculated them. Every word they said, every contradiction, every hesitation. You stored it, processed it, used it. They thought they were manipulating you, when really, they were narrating your victory. And now they stand there, confused, watching how effortlessly you move through chaos. How every time they try to corner you, you're already 2 steps ahead. They call that luck. They call that energy. No, it's intelligence, the kind that doesn't show itself until it's too late. They wanted to believe they were smarter, but when their tricks failed, their stories collapsed, and their lies tangled themselves, they needed something to blame. And since they couldn't accept that you were better, they decided you must be unnatural. That's the tragedy of their kind. They can't separate intuition from witchcraft, logic from illusion, strength from sorcery. They think wisdom is some secret force only a few are allowed to possess. But you know the truth. Wisdom is earned. Awareness is trained. Control is practiced. They spent their time trying to look powerful. You spent yours learning to be powerful. They built images, you built insight. They used manipulation, you used patience. So when everything fell apart, they thought you cast a spell. But all you did was let their arrogance undo itself. Now they stare at you like a mystery, a walking paradox, too calm to be human, too aware to be normal. Every time you predict their next move, they shiver a little. Every time you smile at their attempts to deceive you, they start to believe their own myth. They must be supernatural, they whisper. No, you're just the result of pain refined into perception, betrayal sharpened into understanding. You were broken enough times to learn the blueprint of manipulation, and now, you see right through it. That's not sorcery, that's survival. You became the kind of person who can't be lied to, can't be controlled, can't be fooled, and that makes you terrifying, not because you cast spells, but because you don't need to. Because you've already mastered the oldest magic there is, knowing the truth before it's spoken. So let them call it witchcraft. Let them believe you have powers, because they'll never admit the truth that you were simply smarter, calmer, and far more dangerous than their entire illusion. The greatest magic in this world is seeing everything and pretending you didn't. They can't explain you, can they? They sit there stunned, trying to figure out how you always seem to know, how you read the air before a word is spoken, how you predict betrayal before the knife is even drawn. To them, it's unthinkable. It doesn't make sense, so they reach for the only word that does magic. They whisper it like a confession. No one could be that smart, they say. No one could stay that calm. They call it sorcery because calling it intelligence would mean admitting defeat. They think you've got secrets, rituals, some hidden source of power. But the truth is far simpler. You watch, you listen, you remember. While they were busy performing, you were studying. While they spoke to be heard, you spoke to understand. You didn't learn people, you decoded them. They mistake your silence for spells. They think your calm is enchantment. But silence, my dear, is just strategy wearing elegance. You learned that the loudest person in the room always reveals the most, and you let them. They never saw how many times you bit your tongue instead of reacting, how many moments you spent connecting dots they didn't even know existed. You saw their patterns, the little gestures, the tone shifts, the micro expressions. What they call instinct is just the art of paying attention. You don't conjure outcomes, you see them. You read timelines through behavior, emotions through tone, intentions through inconsistency. You didn't need to cast anything, they cast themselves. The funny thing about intelligence is that it terrifies the unprepared. Logic feels like witchcraft to the irrational. Self-control looks like hypnosis to the impulsive. They can't believe that someone could stay so centered while the world burns around them. They call that unnatural. You call it peace. You learned early that people reveal themselves not through their words, but through their patterns. Every "I swear" was a tell. Every change of subject, a confession. They call that intuition. You call it awareness. So yes, now they think you know sorcery. Because how else could someone so calm, so composed, so silent always end up right? They can't accept that it's not magic, it's math, the human kind. The one where emotion becomes data and deception becomes calculation. They can't believe you don't even flinch anymore. That's what unsettles them most. They throw chaos at you, and you respond with nothing but a slow blink and a half smile. They don't understand that you've already seen this scene before, different faces, same script. And the truth? It is a kind of sorcery, just not the kind they think. It's the sorcery of control, the magic of knowing when not to react, of understanding that prediction isn't prophecy, it's pattern recognition. And you're fluent in it. They call you cold, detached, distant, all the words people use when they realize they can't manipulate you. But that's the trade, isn't it? You gave up warmth to gain vision. You sacrificed being understood for being aware. And now they're terrified of you, because they know deep down that you see them. Not their act, not their words, them. The real version they hide from everyone else. You look at them, and suddenly, all their masks feel heavy. They're impressed and afraid at the same time. They admire your mind, but it also unnerves them. Because you don't need to argue to win. You don't need to shout to be heard. Your silence does all the talking, and that silence feels like judgment, even when it's not. They try to decode you now. They watch how you move, how you breathe, how you respond. But you've learned how to blend stillness into strategy. You reveal nothing. You give them no data to use against you. That, to them, feels supernatural. And maybe it is in a way. Because in a world addicted to noise, restraint is the rarest power of all. You became untouchable not by hiding but by refusing to engage. You don't play defense. You just let their offense collapse under its own weight. They think you're casting spells when you predict their next move. But no, you just remember what they forgot. You remember how they behave under pressure, what they choose when no one's watching, what they fear when everything's quiet. You've seen their tells, and now every move they make is a rerun. You've made them paranoid and you didn't even try. You just told the truth calmly. They expected resistance, chaos, maybe revenge. Instead they got poise. And poise, in the face of accusation, is indistinguishable from power. Now they can't decide what to feel. Respect, fear, curiosity, it all blurs together. They talk about you like a mystery. How do they always know? How are they never surprised? They want to believe it's luck, coincidence, fate, anything but intelligence. Because if it's intelligence, if it's simply you being sharper, more self-aware, then they have no excuse for losing. And ego can't survive that truth. So they call you magic. They make your wisdom into myth because it's easier to worship what they can't match than to admit they could have learned it too if only they'd listened, if only they'd watched. They think you see the future, but you don't. You just see patterns repeating themselves, different faces, same behaviors, history looping in smaller circles. You know when something's ending because endings all sound the same. You know when someone's lying because lies all breathe the same way. You've been burned enough times to recognize the smoke before the fire. And that kind of foresight, it scares people. Because in their world, people react. In yours, people reveal. They tried to study your calm, but calm can't be studied, it has to be earned. You earned it through pain, observation, and restraint. That's why they call it unnatural, because it didn't come cheap. They were waiting for the explosion. They wanted the chaos, the shouting, the breakdown, something to confirm that they still had control over your emotions. But instead, you smiled. You didn't argue, didn't chase, didn't beg. You just looked at them like you'd already seen this scene play out 1,000 times before, and you had. They mistook your calm for confusion. They thought you were suppressing anger, that the storm was still brewing. What they didn't realize is the storm already passed, quietly inside you. By the time they betrayed you, you'd already accepted who they were. And acceptance, to someone like you, is deadlier than rage. They expected retaliation, they got silence. They expected fire, they got ice. And nothing unnerves the guilty more than being met with indifference. Because anger means you still care, but silence means it's over. You didn't block them out of hate. You didn't disappear to prove a point. You just decided that peace was worth more than participation. You walked away like a surgeon leaving an operating room after cutting out a tumor, precise, calm, necessary. They keep asking themselves, why aren't they mad? As if your emotional response is still their business. What they don't understand is that anger is temporary, but detachment is permanent. You outgrew the need for revenge the moment you realized you were already free. They wanted chaos. You gave them stillness. They wanted guilt. You gave them nothing. And now, that nothing is echoing inside their mind louder than any argument ever could. See, they thought they were special enough to disrupt your peace, but when you didn't react, when you didn't even blink, it shattered their illusion of power. Because there's no greater humiliation for a manipulator than discovering they no longer have access to your emotions. You didn't need to post, rant, or explain your side. You let time do the storytelling, and time has a cruel way of revealing who was real and who was just loud. You didn't need revenge. The truth handled that for you. They told themselves you were cold. They whispered that you changed. But the truth is simpler. You just stopped entertaining drama disguised as connection. You stopped playing therapist to people who refuse to heal. You learned the art of emotional control, the kind that terrifies small-minded people, because when someone can't make you react, they realize they can't manipulate you. And when they can't manipulate you, they call you heartless. They think your chillness is fake. They assume you're pretending to be unbothered, but deep down they know it's real because your silence feels too effortless, your distance too peaceful. You didn't build walls to keep them out. You built peace to keep yourself in. Now they talk about you like a mystery. They say you just stopped caring one day, as if it happened overnight. What they'll never understand is that detachment is slow, it's quiet. It's death by realizing they're no longer worth your energy. They expected you to spiral, to seek revenge, to prove your worth. Instead, you became everything they never expected: calm, distant, successful, untouchable. And that's what truly burns them. You didn't just survive the betrayal. You leveled up because of it. They wanted you to crumble under the weight of their actions. Instead, you became lighter. They wanted you to break. Instead, you became whole. And now they're left trying to understand how someone they tried to destroy came out glowing. Every time they hear your name, there's a sting because it reminds them of what they couldn't ruin. They threw everything at you: lies, blame, betrayal, and you just absorbed it, smiled, and walked away like it never happened. They keep watching you from afar, waiting for a sign that you're still affected, but you're not. You've moved on so far that even their memory feels small, like something that happened to someone you used to be. You became untouchable not because you fought harder, but because you stopped fighting altogether. You realized peace isn't the absence of noise, it's the refusal to dance to someone else's chaos. They mistake your chill for weakness, but your calm is earned. It's the calm of someone who's seen everything, survived everything, and decided to respond to nothing. That's real power, quiet, steady, and unnerving. Now they're left wondering what it would take to get a reaction from you again, but there's nothing left to provoke, because you've evolved past their reach. You don't live in the same emotional landscape anymore. You exist in a world they can't enter, a world built from silence, understanding, and control. You became the kind of peace they'll never know because they're too addicted to the drama that keeps them miserable. And that's your quiet revenge. Not vengeance, not rage, just the effortless glow of someone who healed without announcing it. You didn't fight them. You outgrew them, and nothing haunts the guilty more than realizing they're no longer relevant in the story they tried to control. You won the battle without showing up for it. You defeated them with nothing but self-control. And now, while they wait for the storm, you sit in sunlight, calm, collected, and beautifully unbothered. Because the truth is simple, they thought you'd be angry. You chose peace instead. And peace, in the hands of someone who's been through hell, is the most dangerous weapon of all. They thought betrayal would ignite you. They were prepared for the screaming, the chaos, the rage. They imagined you throwing words like daggers, shattering everything around you just to prove a point. But you didn't. You just smiled. That smile, calm, quiet, detached, became the thing that haunted them the most. They expected fire, but got frost. They expected to see you crumble, but you just turned away. Because when you've truly seen through someone, when the illusion dies, there's no anger left, only understanding. You didn't lose your temper, you lost interest. You see, anger is still a form of connection. It means they still have a hold on you. But you reached the level beyond it, the level of indifference. You didn't cut them off to punish them. You just realized they weren't worth the effort of an explanation. They don't know how to handle that kind of peace. People like them feed on reactions, on guilt, on conflict, on attention. When you gave them nothing, they starved. You took away their favorite meal, your energy. They tell everyone you changed, but the truth is simpler. You just got tired of watering dead things. You stopped setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. And now, they're freezing in the cold they created. You didn't post about it. You didn't talk about it. You just vanished. That silence was louder than any confrontation could have been. It told the whole story without you needing to speak a single word. They call your calm coldness, but that's projection. What they see as ice is actually discipline. You mastered your emotions, and that mastery terrifies them because they still need drama to feel alive. They wanted you angry because anger is predictable. But calmness is power. They don't know what to do with someone who doesn't play by the emotional rules. You became a puzzle they can't solve, and that drives them insane. You didn't win by fighting back. You won by walking away. You understood the truth that not every war deserves a warrior. Some battles are won simply by refusing to enter the arena. Now they replay the past in their heads, searching for a version of you that might still react. They scroll through old messages, remembering the warmth in your tone, the effort you gave. And they wonder how that version of you could vanish so completely. But you didn't vanish, you evolved. You outgrew their chaos. You realized peace wasn't something they could ever give you, so you built it yourself. Quietly, efficiently, permanently. Their biggest confusion is your composure. They can't comprehend how someone they tried to hurt is walking around so unbothered. They expected revenge. They got serenity. They expected tears. They got laughter. Every time they see you now, that calm energy unsettles them, because they know they don't live there in that peace. You do. You earned it through silence, through distance, through the refusal to be dragged back into their circus. They whisper your name differently now, not with arrogance but with awe, because your chill wasn't weakness, it was a revelation. You taught them that some people don't scream when they're done. They just close the door and never return. You didn't need to prove them wrong. You just stopped participating in their delusions. You stopped explaining what should have been obvious. You stopped giving second chances to people who made first chances look like mistakes. They're left wondering, how can they be so calm? But that calmness wasn't born overnight. It came from surviving the storm, from understanding that peace is the loudest form of power. Your indifference became your weapon. Every smile that wasn't forced, every night of uninterrupted sleep, every moment of stillness, all of it was a declaration of victory. Because while they were busy plotting reactions, you were busy healing.